My name is Pastor Bill Blume. I'm pastor here at Faith to Faith Ministries in Rochester, Pennsylvania. Because of the things that I experienced as a child, I experienced a lot of, when I was molested, and it didn't happen just once. It was, two different players at two different times, and I was real little, and I didn't understand a lot of things, but I knew that there was a lot of guilt going on in my life and a lot of shame going on in my life. And, well, that started bottling up and festering, and it hurt so bad. I was reaching out to find some ways to heal the hurt. So I started with alcohol, and then I started with drugs, and I kept crossing those lines. Well, I'll just do this, and then it turned into this, and then it turned into that. I was 16 years old when I was shooting dope. Before I got, when I got thrown out of high school, I joined a motorcycle club. Because I was looking for something more, something bigger than I was. I like the feeling of macho. I had to be part of that. I was a big kid. I was a mean kid. So I fit right in out there, and I was crazy like everybody else, but I was also 10 years younger than everybody else. And I like that feeling of power, that when I walked in a bar or something with that patch on my back, people backed off, and I like that. I thought that if you feared me, you respected me. The violent aspect of it, I shot a guy. And I wasn't trying to scare him. I was trying to kill him. Well, some things happened, and I got arrested. I was on probation for shooting at people. So I wasn't getting a bond. Large amount of cocaine, marijuana, a couple of guns, and it wasn't my car. And I probably had some parking tickets too. But I wasn't going anywhere. So I'm sitting there in jail. I laid on a floor too sick to die for 2 weeks from all the drugs and alcohol coming on me. I detoxed in jail. They didn't know if I was going to live through it. There was no medication. They just leave you on the floor, and if you live, you live, and if you don't, you don't. So when I finally was able to get up off the floor and eat a little bit, I started coming to myself, and I'm thinking, man, this was not the plan that I had for my life. Where did I take that wrong turn? December 9th was when I caught the case, 1999. And it was at Christmas time. And there were some volunteers that came up and sang Christmas carols to the prisoners in the county jail. And for the first time in my life, I listened to the words. And they were words filled with joy and hope and stuff I didn't understand. But it stirred something inside of me. And the next thing you know, I'm on my knees next to a toilet in a jail cell in northern Indiana, saying, Jesus, come fix me. I need fixed. And he did. And I didn't understand it. All I knew was that I had to share this love of God that I experienced to all the other prisoners, that I was locked up with. And I just couldn't find out enough about Jesus. I had to keep reading that New Testament. And the chaplain there is a spirit-filled preacher, has a church on the outside. He's doing the chaplain job there. And he identified that I was leadership. And I knew I was called to do something, I just didn't know what. Well, I was actually able to sit under this pastor, Randy Hagens, for 2 years before my security clearance went down, and they moved me to a softer penitentiary. I've watched Cornerstone television many times, flipping through the channels. And even as a sinner, I used to flip through the channels, and I'd see it, and I'd watch it for a while. And I'd like the Spirit of God was all over me, and I'm like, oh, I got to flip through, because there was always that draw of God, but I just didn't understand it. I figured that was something creepy, and I just kept going. But after I got saved, I remembered Cornerstone and television. So I'm flipping through, and I'd see you guys and watch television, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of good shows on there, and there's a lot of relevant things. So I'd take my people, and I'm like, hey, you guys need to watch this instead of Law and Order. Feed your spirit, because what goes in will eventually come out, right? If you've been hurt, and if something happened to you when you were a kid, trust Jesus. Trust Jesus. Listen, Jesus said something really crazy, and I've always held it dear to my heart. And he said, all that the Father give me, I will in no wise cast out. Man, if he's calling you, go to him. You can't mess this up. You got messed up when you were a kid, that ain't your fault. God's saying, come on, let me help you. Let me fix you. Go to him. Run to him. Don't run away from him.